and welcome back to another episode of the Real Conversations podcast. I'm your host, Jacob O'Connor. Real Conversations podcast for those dedicated to doing hard things and living a meaningful life. Today, I'm joined all the way from Southern California by Brady Palen. How you doing, Brady?
Pretty good. Thank you for having me, Jacob. I'm glad to be back in Wichita and seeing some familiar faces again.
It's weird seeing you wear a USC track and field shirt.
It feels good to me. I love to wear their gear. It's a lot of fun. It's a different pace too, so switching it up.
So you made a big life change that a lot of my listeners probably don't know about. Remind people who you are, what you do, and then what the big life change is that you just had.
Sure. So I'm a high jumper at Wichita State. I share the indoor record at the school for high jump. It's 2.22 meters, 7.3 and a quarter. And I pretty much accomplished what I wanted to at Wichita State, and I was blessed to have an extra indoor season. So I took my talents to Southern California and pretty much had a whole life shift out to the West Coast. And I've never had any experience out there, so it's kind of a whole fresh step.
You're in a big city. Like, you grew up in Beloit, Kansas, which is population almost zero, and went to Wichita State. I'm sure we've talked about that was kind of probably a little bit of a culture shock because Wichita is much bigger than Beloit. How has it been going out to Southern California?
Well, to start off, when I grew up in Beloit, there wasn't a whole lot of distractions, but in a small town, you also don't know what's all out there, the opportunities you don't always see. Yeah. So I had a great support system in Beloit, and I kind of saw some future with athletics and what I could do in that realm. So I had a great support system, not a lot of distractions, and that kind of set a solid foundation for my athletic career. Once I came to Wichita, there's a few more distractions, and you kind of learn how to sift through that and kind of cut out some of the bullshit once you get going. Yeah. And it takes time to adjust that, and I kind of figured that out my last couple of years at Wichita State and kind of what I needed and what I didn't need. And obviously I'm still continuing to do that. But all that background really helped me adjust to living Los Angeles, and just such a crazy city where there's so many different distractions and so much crap going on. And I feel like I can still stay focused out there and kind of follow what I came out there to do.
Do you feel like you've like really defined your lane and you're staying in it? Or is it like, because part of it is you wanted that life experience of going somewhere new and like getting to explore, see the West Coast. Like, what has been the balance of I'm going to be a tourist and enjoy this different element of my life versus I'm also locked in, I'm focused on Olympic qualifiers or whatever those goals are you have?
Right. It's definitely a balance. I've learned things like pretty quick there. Things are expensive out there, and I'm pretty much out there on my kind of like, if I want to do something fun, then it's out of my pocket and I'm not working. So that's kind of been a limiting factor in some of those experiences. But I've got a good head on my shoulders, I'd like to think, and I can kind of decide what I need to do and what I don't need to do. But going out there and trying new things is the goal of going out there. I don't want to sit in my apartment and not do anything and miss out on what's around me. So the first couple months, going to the beach on the weekends and getting out and doing all that stuff and getting comfortable with my landscape was pretty much my goal when I first got there. Now that I've settled in a little bit, it's definitely more track focused, and going out there, I'm likely just need to be in shape for the next 9 months when I first entered the transfer portal. So over the summer, my training was more focused, especially when I got to campus. Like, I'm out there like a professional athlete. That's all I've got to do. So I can just flood all of my resources into just training. And that's definitely been a step from what I did here in Wichita when I was working, taking more classes and everything else. So I'm really excited for this upcoming track season because this is what I've got left to show. I've worked hard at Wichita. I've worked even harder now, and I feel like I'm just more focused, and I've got the right support group and the right focus to accomplish what I want to get out of college track and field.
That word focus, I think, is a great one, because like you're saying, you had other things going on while you're Wichita State. You were still very intentional about your time with track, and you gave it your full effort. But now, like, you are a new level of dialed in. You are with some of the best athletes in track and field in the entire US or even in the world. And it's just an entire new environment. Like, what are you feeling heading into this track season?
I'm just super excited, but I'll tell you, when I first got out there, after a while, it's like, man, I feel like I'm not doing anything.
Yeah.
And I expressed feelings to like my coaches and stuff. It's like, I kind of want a job. I feel like I'm just sitting around the apartment or in the library, just not really doing a whole lot. And I've kind of shifted my focus on how that can help my training and help my performances at track meets, where I'm not running around. I don't have all this extra stress. I can train harder and hopefully that pays off. So I don't have any work stress. I don't have as much social stress. And I think all of that being removed can kind of help me train harder, recover better, and ultimately lead to hopefully the top 5 finish at NCAAs.
I was going to ask, what was your national ranking last year?
I'm not sure what I finished, but in the NCAA last year outdoor, I got 8th. And by season average, I went through and calculated like everybody's season average that qualified for the national championship. And I was ranked 7th, and then I was ranked 9th on personal best. So I pretty much finished right where I should have.
So top 10 in the NCAA, like you're talking about training in this regiment, like what does it take? What does your day-to-day look like to be top 10 in the NCAA?
Right now, it takes a focused diet, cutting out a lot of the extra crap, and really just drawing on my teammates and resources I have at USC. I see Olympians walking around all the time. There's a lot of great athletes around me. I'm training with people that have won junior world championships, that have participated in the Olympics. JC and my jump squad won outdoor title in long jump. It's great to have those people around. And then you go into the coaching staff and all they've accomplished, and the coaches, the athletes, the coaches have helped. That's just such a great resource to lean on, and it's got to pay off, right?
Yeah. I mean, you're so dialed in right now. What are your workouts like?
My workouts are really not too different than what I've done in the past. It's just, I think, a little bit of more iron sharpens iron, and I have all those resources. I'm looking at athletes that have accomplished way more than what I've ever accomplished, and that's a motivating factor for me when I go and work out.
I'm sorry, I forgot to even check. I think you're fully in camera, right?
Yeah.
Okay, I can cut this part out. We were just talking about working out. Yeah. So are you doing like 2-a-days? Are you doing one lift, one cardio? Like what is the actual, and then how are you recovering? Like what is the actual, when you get into the nitty gritty of it, look like?
Okay. So I could walk you through pretty much a week process, but really it starts with different sections of training. And in fall, we're going to see a lot more running for a high jumper and kind of cutting off those extra extra pounds you gained over the summer and getting it back into more just general physical strength, running workouts, stair workouts, and all of that. But we've sort of cut that down to where it's shorter and faster, a lot of accelerations and everything like that. Same, a lot of power cleans, a lot of squats, a lot of single leg stuff, plyometrics. They all play a factor in high jump and training in general. But in the fall, we start off with more conditioning, and we kind of wind that out of the training program and focused on more intense, shorter workouts.
Hey guys, Jacob here. Real quick before we get back to the episode, I just want to take a quick second and say, if you guys are enjoying this episode, please make sure to share the link with a friend. You may have noticed I don't run any ads in the podcast. In fact, I don't make any money off the podcast. It's quite the contrary. Over the past 5 years, I've invested a lot of time, money, and effort into the growth of the show, trying to continually upgrade the equipment, bring on better guests, and just improve the overall quality of the podcast. So if you guys are enjoying this episode, or if you enjoyed previous episodes, please share the link with a friend. Sending it to 1 or 2 people makes a huge difference for me on the back end. As always, I appreciate your guys' support. Let's get back into the episode. You mentioned a focused diet, which is funny because I saw what you were eating here at Wichita State. We kind of joked about that in previous episodes. What actually is your diet now? Like, what are your go-tos, and what have you found is actually useful for this productive output you're looking to have?
Well, a big part of it is really the resource of the dining center we have there.
Yeah.
It's phenomenal. It's athletes only, so I definitely take advantage of that. But I work with the dietitian there, and they try to get me to eat more vegetables, and obviously I push against that. But it's more carb focused in the morning, and then we look at for protein at lunch or after the workouts. So get a good breakfast in, kind of get settled for the day, and then recover after the workouts. And USC has just done a great job. Every time you go in the locker room or the weight room, the fridges are full of protein shakes and other different protein bars and stuff that you can grab from and have access to anytime you really need one.
You're living the dream. You're living my dream right now.
Yes. I sit out there and work like a professional athlete. It's great.
So you have a dietitian, which is awesome because like I've had to learn everything about nutrition that I have the hard way, just trial and error and reading about it myself and whatever else. What have been some of the key things you've learned about nutrition through that, having a dietitian?
One major thing is cycling kind of my macros, like I just mentioned. And at Wichita, I didn't really think about that. I wasn't really too worried about fueling my workouts, but since it's pretty much all I got and all I work towards, it's pretty much everything I focus on, I put all my effort into. Mm-hmm. So I don't have any top secrets that I can release, but focusing on the macros has helped.
At least let us into the diet. Like day in the life of Brady, what are you eating in a day?
Usually start with a coffee on the way to campus and then get an omelet, maybe a cup of rice, steamed rice, and then some bacon dipped in syrup, which that's kind of just my choice. I don't think that's advised, but you got to start off your day on a good note.
Yeah. And then lunch?
Some sort of lean meat in there. It's usually a beef option. They've got chicken and some kind of fish normally, but I'm normally leaning towards like a steak or tri-tip or brisket or whatever they have in there.
I'm so jealous. Just have that on hand. You didn't have to prepare it. You didn't have to buy it. Just to have steak at your disposal.
It's great. We go in there and we can have boxes to go. So at the end of the week or end of the day after a workout, you can load up a box for the weekend and have 3 or 4 steaks you can cut up and make into sandwiches and everything else you want to. So it's been a great resource. I don't have to spend money on groceries. Mm-hmm. If I need milk, I can go in there and get a glass of milk if I really want to and load it up in a cup and walk it back to my apartment. Same thing with bread and everything else in there. It's really helps me, and it's a great resource because I don't have to have a job to pay for those groceries like I did here.
Yeah. I really screwed up, man. I should have been a Division I athlete. I don't know what I was thinking.
What are you referred to as again?
So Brady's got this acronym. I first heard this my freshman year of college. I had never heard of it before. It bothers me to my core. He calls me a NARP, which is a non-athletic regular person, which I highly disagree with because I think I'm probably more athletic than your average Joe.
I'd agree, but NARP is funny. And people that aren't in athletics are probably annoyed by it, but it's just a funny acronym that I always give Jacob heck for.
Oh yeah, I am very annoyed by it because I don't see any of you guys going out and doing 31 miles on a random Tuesday night. Like,
no, but I don't see you sitting in compliance meetings for track and field meetings.
Oh, why is the compliance what would make me?
Because that's some of the extra stuff that athletes have to do. It's a community. It's a family. We all share those same experiences, whether we like them or not. But
oh, that's fair. It's more than just the athletics. It's the shared suffering of all of the mundanity of it.
Yeah. It's a lifestyle.
Yeah, that's valid. Okay. Well, so you're working out hard. You're eating well. Like you're already, as we've already hit on, a new level of focus has been implemented. What does your recovery look like? What kind of facilities do they have out there?
We have a great training room for the track and field team. We share it with the football and all the other sports there. Mm-hmm. So they've got the heating and cooling tubs, and then obviously the diet part is great where they've got the recovery shakes and everything else. You can go in there. We've got massages once a week. It's pretty good.
Are you serious?
Exciting.
You get a massage once a week?
Yes, once a week, and I didn't even sign up for it. It was scheduled for me, so that's definitely something I wasn't used to here at Wichita, but I love it. It's a great perk of being at USC.
Going into that, how many massages do you think you'd had?
1 or 2?
Yeah.
Which they're upon request. Don't get me wrong. If you really need one, you can get one here in Wichita. But at USC, they're kind of more given out, a specialist for it. There's not really a request process.
Have you noticed a big difference in having a weekly massage?
It helps loosen up some areas that I wouldn't normally donate any time to myself. So it's good to have.
Nice. And then you said the hot and cold tub. Are you taking ice baths?
Maybe once a week I'll do a contrast, but it's probably just like 4 minutes in the heat and ice and then back and forth 3 times.
So when you say heat, is it a hot tub or what is it that you're getting into that's hot?
Yeah, a hot tub.
Any idea on temperature?
No idea. Probably 100, probably right like at 100.
Nice. And then any idea on the cold plunge?
We had some really cold ones at Wichita State, so I couldn't last very long in those because they were, I don't know, 50 degrees. I'm guessing it's high 50s.
Yeah,
the one I use.
Probably continuously running water though. Like it's always moving.
Yeah, it's always flowing.
Yeah, that's tough because like you have this thermal barrier that gets around you when you're in an ice bath, and if it's not moving, it keeps you warm. But when the water is moving, it breaks the thermal barrier, and so it just continually sucks. You can't ever get comfortable.
Yeah, and the first time I went in there, the one tub had all the foam on it and stuff, you're like, oh yeah, this is the hot tub. So I confidently just walk in there.
Oh no.
My ankles go in there. I'm like, oh crap, this is the ice tub. But I just manned through it and walked in.
I thought you were saying you turned around.
No, I went through with it. It wasn't that bad.
So I know that contrast therapy can be overhyped. For myself, I find it extraordinarily beneficial. But for you, have you actually noticed a tangible difference in your performance and recovery? Or is it more of just like, I should be doing it, so I am?
Exactly. I should be doing it, so I am. But there are some times I do feel better the next day, a little bit fresher. Soreness-wise, I don't know how much it really helps, but freshness-wise, I feel a lot better the next day sometimes.
Nice. So when does indoor season? Do you have an indoor season or you just?
I only have an indoor season.
Okay.
So
when is that?
It's all out. It's gas pedal. Just down. Everything's focused on it. It's from January 17th to March 15th or so, I think is around time of nationals. So
wow,
you've got to be top 16 in the NCAAs to qualify for nationals, and you get each indoor track meet to qualify for that. So
do you think
there's some pressure on it? I hope, sure hope so. All this work better pay off. It's definitely a tough meet to qualify for. Outdoors, they take top 24, and you got to perform on that day to make it. But indoor, there's 5 or 6 meets, and it puts the stress on every single track meet. Outdoor, you can kind of work on some things throughout the season. Indoor, you've just got to be ready to go.
Yeah. I'm sure you're feeling the pressure right now. It's December 31st. You said January 16th. It's your last indoor track season. You moved all the way out to California. You're fully focused. Like, where is your head at right now? Are you feeling just immense confidence? Are you super nervous? Like, what is your mindset right now?
I do feel a sense of confidence because I've worked hard, and when you do all those reps and you don't cheat yourself, you've got that behind you. I have never been a great practice jumper, and we're working on things in practice, obviously. So when I go to practice, I'm not jumping near 7.3. Mm-hmm. If I jump 6.10 in a practice, I'm pretty darn happy with that. That's a good practice.
Yeah.
And so right now I haven't been in a competition since July, and I'm like, man, I sure hope I still have that height left. But normally on meet day, when I take my warm-ups off and the jersey's on, it all comes together, and I've got some extra bounce, I guess.
Is that like adrenaline, like the power of the moment? Is that what gets you those extra inches?
Well, adrenaline, and then you also prepare for it. You take a few days off before, and your body's not as stressed as it is normally during practice. So that's a big part of it. One exciting thing for me is I got named team captain.
Seriously?
So that adds to my confidence.
Congrats, man.
Thank you. Coach called me over one day, and I'm like, oh shoot, what I do? But he asked me to be a team captain for the indoor season, so that's really exciting. He complimented my hard work and the extra stuff I do around the track that most of the athletes there just don't do because they weren't trained. For example, just like taking out equipment and putting it away, that's a big one. At Wichita State, that was just normal. Mm-hmm. So I was trained that way, and Wichita State made me into the athlete I am today, where you take care of your equipment, you put it back and everything else. And USC, the level they are, they just they have managers to do that.
Right.
So they can take care of it. But I've always had that kind of ingrained in me. And so when I got there, I just kept doing it and it seemed normal to me. So with that, and then the addition of my experience in college athletics, this is my 5th year. And the hard work I've put in the fall, he asked me to be a team captain, which is just an incredible honor that I would have never expected when I showed up on campus. And it's something I wasn't even thinking about.
I feel like as a transfer too, that you're probably less likely. It would have been
absolutely. With one indoor season, I was like, I'm going to be focused on myself here, I guess.
Yeah.
But as team captain, you obviously feel some responsibility for the team, and you draw on the experiences you have from previous teams, and you just go out there and do your best. And I think that's helped me because I've had a great support system all my life. I've been on good sports teams. I've never felt like an individual on a track team.
Mm-hmm.
I've always felt like I'm part of a team and I have some stake in the team.
That's pretty cool because you're doing a very individual sport. Like I know the cumulative points matter, but you're doing high jump. You're not handing off the baton in a relay. And that's pretty cool, especially you coming in as a newcomer. Like you're meeting all these people for the first time and they're just starting to get to learn. And how do you cultivate that respect? And how do you take on leadership when it's all new people?
You've just got to be friendly, always be willing to have a conversation with people. I think I'm new, and obviously I don't know who else is all new. There's newcomer meetings, and you just don't remember everybody that's brand new. So having a conversation with people and the other athletes on the team, it helps create a level of comfort for you and them. So I think that builds up other people as well. But that's pretty much where I'm going with that, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah. Nice. So you're heading into this season, obviously I hope the best for you. What is your thoughts on after college? Like, are you even thinking that far out, or is that something you're putting a lot of time and effort into right now?
It's something I'm thinking of right now. Absolutely. And I work with Coach Petersmeyer, and I've really loved his training program, and I've really appreciated working with him and the other athletes he's coached. So we're going to see how this indoor season goes, and I'll compete unattached outdoors until the U.S. championships, hopefully. And then we'll make a decision. It's late July, early August.
Okay.
So I'll train for that, and I'll keep going until then. If I see significant improvements and I like where we're headed, then I'll keep training for 2028. But that'll be a decision that's made closer to the U.S. championships.
Dude, that's so crazy because it's so far away.
It is. It's a massive commitment to be a full-time employee working somewhere and also be a full-time athlete, especially when you're competing at that level and you just need time of day, really. Your body doesn't recover as well when you get older. It takes longer to get ready for workouts. It's just a big time devotion, especially when you're trying to build a career.
Yeah, it's hard to really go deep on two things that are important to you. Like to build a career that could be the next 30 to 40 years of like setting you up for the rest of your life and a potential family and all that type of stuff. But then to also have track that you care so deeply about, and that is a potential career route, to take both of those things tangentially and to try and go very deep into them at the same time. That's very hard to focus on two things like that.
Yeah, that's where the road divides, really. You pretty much have to make a commitment to one, and track has done a lot for me, but that decision is going to be a tough one because the future of track is, it's not too lucrative for a high jumper unless you're an Olympic level high jumper, which I'm not yet. So to make that commitment for 4 more years and live very, very modestly will be tough for me, I think.
I don't feel like you'd have a hard time living modestly. I feel like you already do that pretty well, but it is hard to say with the goal so far out in the future, like, is the next 4 years worth my time of doing this? That's going to be a fun decision to make.
It will be, and it's going to be harder because I'm working out in Los Angeles where the 2028 Olympics will be.
Oh, sweet.
And that was part of my decision on choosing USC was, the Olympics will be out there. So if I wanted to continue to train for the Olympics, then I'm kind of in the place to do it.
Yeah, there's an energy to it because it's happening there.
Right. And I've felt the experience of meeting different Olympians, and I think that's a really cool thing. The first time we were on campus, we met Rai Benjamin and got to hold his 2 gold medals from the Olympics this year.
Oh my gosh.
So that was pretty sweet. And it was like, man, I kind of want to be like that, where there's people fanboying over me and everything else. And then that's just a big decision.
You have the opportunity to be a role model for people, because it would be a big commitment to make, and the downside would be difficult, but the upside would be so high that you'd have the opportunity to encourage other people to take that route and to kind of inspire them.
Absolutely. And I take inspiration from those people. I've got a teammate, Ezra Freck, who won the 100 meter and the high jump in the Paralympics. It's great
Crazy
to have people like that around and see them and see what an inspiration they are and how I can use my platform to influence other people for the better.
Was this even on the table? Like the first time we recorded a podcast, I think it was like 2, maybe 3 years ago. Like, did you think there was any shot of looking at a 2028 Olympic run, or did this just over the last year and a half or even 6 months? Like, what has been the progression of your belief in yourself and how far you could take this?
Well, I think the first time we did a podcast would have been after indoor my junior year, when I got 7th, and I was riding high at that time in my life. And it's pretty much developed since then. I kind of go out and have this mindset where I'm going to work hard at what I do. And I might not have a certain goal set, but I'm working towards something. And all you can do is give your best every day. And even though you don't have a certain goal, like transferring to USC or winning a national championship, when you just work hard every day, things like that pop into your life. The harder you work, the more opportunities you have. So going out there and just giving it your all every day is going to present more opportunities.
Do you see the amount that you care about track and high jump? Do you see that in other areas of your life, or in other areas of your life? Is it like, I care so much about this one thing that I need to not be so disciplined or care so much about these other areas?
It's taught me how to balance things. I definitely take some emotional investment into track and field, where if I'm not doing good, then it's definitely mentally tough and more physically tough. Your chance of injury is higher.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know where I'm not sure. It's a good question. I don't see myself piling everything I have into track and field. But the level of focus has definitely increased. So I'm obviously building my business career. I'm working on my MBA from Wichita State still. I'm taking classes there, and there's still other stuff in my life going on other than just track, but it's definitely the biggest focus right now. And I think after college track, we'll probably see more of a shift into the business world and away from athletics. But I've always loved athletics. I love competing, basketball, golf, pickleball, anything competitive. It's just a lot of fun.
You just want to win.
Absolutely. I've worked really hard on my athletic career, and I want to leverage it and use it to win.
Yeah. It's such an infectious feeling, like just to be victorious in something. It's like, yeah, I did that to the best and I got the outcome I wanted.
Right.
You mentioned basketball and golf. How's your golf game improved?
My golf game has gone downhill.
Oh, that's tough.
So I moved out there. I brought my clubs. I played once, signed up for a golf course, and I got out there and it was like par 64. And if anybody knows anything about golf, that's not good, because it's probably just a cheap course that's just out there for people to use that aren't super invested in their golf game, more for fun. Mm-hmm. I hit range balls once a week, maybe go out and hit some golf balls, and took a fun trip over to Palm Springs and played the PGA West Stadium course.
That's
and
sweet.
Another course out there. So I think my golf game has probably gone downhill for a little bit, but it's still there where I can rely and go out and have a good time with friends on the course. And that's all you can ask for.
I feel like it'll benefit you too. If you do end up making the jump over to the business side of the world, like having a good golf game can't hurt.
Absolutely. And when you have all the training you have from high jump where it's all explosiveness. You can hit the golf ball far, and that's also impressive to a lot of people.
Yeah, I need you to give me a few tips. I'm so awful at golf, and for someone who likes to win and get really good at things, I'm atrocious to play with.
Well, you got to start with the right concepts and the right technique, and you have to make a big investment at the beginning. So you learn to do stuff right from the beginning. Once you get deep into it, you're fixing things, and mentally it's just a tough game. And I love it because you go out there and you can compete against yourself, you can compete against other people, you're outside, and just gives you something to fill your time with if you're bored on an evening and it's nice out.
Yeah.
Gets you out of the house.
Yeah, it beats just watching TV and sitting around with friends. It's like you're actually doing
Absolutely.
something.
I have really leaned on golf and athletics for that reason, where I don't want to sit around the house and stare at my phone or at the TV. I like to go to other places and they ask me what my hobby is. And sometimes it's like a little bit deflating when you're like, what do I do with my life? Can I just stare at my phone all day?
Yeah.
Like, what are my hobbies? And the answer to that question is just finding something to be competitive at, whether that be I'm going to work harder on this paper and try to get a good grade, or I'm going to go sharpen my golf game up.
Yeah.
I kind of take that drive I have within myself and apply it to the world, I guess.
I'm very similar. I think the feeling of progress is like the most addicting thing ever. And so I often conceptualize it as like, how can I get better today? Just incrementally in whatever area of my life it is. So if that was golf or writing a paper or track, like whatever it is that I'm focused on at that moment, it's like, if I want this to be any sort of fun, then I need to feel like I made some progress, and to feel like I made some progress, I got to get just a little bit better at it.
Absolutely. 1% better is what they say, 37% better in a year.
Yeah. And then it compounds after that. And it's crazy after 2, 3, 4, 5 years.
Right.
So I love that type of stuff. I'm curious, back to the high jump, like as you look at the bar, you get 3 attempts at high jump, right?
Right.
Okay.
3 consecutive misses and you're out.
Okay. So it's your 3rd attempt. You're going for first place, or just this is the bar you need to hit, or whatever the situation is. You feel the pressure. You're about to go and make the jump. You're in your head. What are you telling yourself in that high pressure moment? Like, what are the thoughts running through your head?
I try to think of a lot of posture related stuff, and that's might be a weakening factor to my high jump, where I can be on the apron, high jump apron, getting ready to jump, and I'm thinking about different aspects of my high jump, where ideally I'd like to shut my brain off and let every part of my body just work. Same thing in golf. Like, you don't want to be sitting there thinking about, keep my elbow in, everything else. On the high jump apron, I'm thinking pretty much nothing. I want to shut my brain off. I want things to flow. All the hard work I've done, I want my body to hit positions and posture in the right spot and not have to think about it.
Do you do any kind of breath work to get yourself to that calm state?
I'm not at that level. No, I don't do a lot of breath work.
You say you're not at that level. You're top 10 in the NCAA. I feel like you could take some time and just think about how breath affects your nerves.
You're right. But it's just something I've never focused on, I guess.
Yeah.
I'm not a guy that really gets too worked up. Obviously, at a national championship or a last chance to qualify, you definitely feel the stress. But when I'm out there high jumping, I don't feel really worked up and nervous. Like, I remember in high school going to some basketball games where you're playing a rival or whatever, and you're like nervous for the game before you go out there. Same thing when you're in football and you're the scrawny kid playing safety and linebackers coming down. You're like, do I really want to do this? I'm nervous.
Right.
But when I high jump, I don't get that same feeling.
I think that's so cool, because like, to hear how much you care about track and high jump and are invested and have a drive to get better at it. I feel like for most people, and I've told you this before, so I know it's not going to offend you. I feel like for most people that know you, you are very even keeled, almost to the point of where you seem passive and almost like you don't care just about that. And to hear how much you care about track and see you focus so much on it, it's like this hidden drive inside of you that, like, just at surface level, unless someone really knows you, you wouldn't really see it. But like to see how hard you work and to know how much you do care, I love that, man. It's sweet.
Yeah, I do hide a lot of the hard work I put in, and some of the emotional intelligence I have really just pays off when I'm out there on the high jump apron, I guess. And I think a lot of that goes into like stoicism and not worrying about what you can't control, worrying about what you can control. And that's showing up early to practice, getting loose, stretching before practice, putting in the extra work. All of that will pay off. That's the stuff you can control. And indoor track, luckily, there's some factors that you don't have to worry about, like weather.
Yeah.
So,
or the wind in Wichita.
Right. So just control what you can, and don't necessarily worry about everything else. And I don't let a lot of that outside stuff get to me.
It's nice. You're very even keel. You're a calm presence to be around.
Right. Sometimes that doesn't come off too great because it might come off as not invested or not interested, but deep down, I just carry my emotions on the inside. I'm not an emotional guy, really.
Yeah. Do you think that that's something you've had to teach yourself? Or do you think that's innate, just how you are?
It's something that I've worked on, and it's a lifestyle I've identified. I love stoicism. I'm not I couldn't tell you every philosopher and everything behind it, but I really have focused on that and just the way I grew up.
I did not know this about you. I know you like stoicism.
Absolutely.
Why do you like it?
I could show you right here my background.
Oh, seriously?
I think it's one that you already posed. I can't show it. Man cannot remake himself without suffering, for he is both the marble and the sculptor.
Oh, I love that.
I love that too. It's if you want growth, you gotta. Sometimes it's not comfortable. Is really what it comes down to.
Yeah, it's a painful process. Iron sharpens iron.
Nothing changes if nothing changes.
Nothing changes. Absolutely. Nothing changes. Yeah, dude. I love all of that. Man, I'm very surprised with that.
It's top secret stuff.
You mentioned that some of it has to do with how you grew up. What affected you with how you grew up to make you this way?
I think my dad's a very similar way. He's very emotionally intelligent, doesn't get too worked up about anything. Mm-hmm. And I saw that growing up. And I've identified times where I see people and they let their emotion get a hold of them. And I've just really found that as like a turnoff. Like I don't want to be seen like that. And that's kind of formed me to be the way I am today.
Yeah. When you get outside of that rational mind, which is hard because like there's things that set you off and whatever else, but when you're outside of that rational mind, almost nothing good happens. Like when you're not thinking logically, you're just opening yourself up to a world of short-term decisions that are going to affect the long-term negatively. And that's almost never what you want. You almost always want to be preparing and focusing on the long-term outcome.
Right. And the way I look at it is, what can I do about it? If there's nothing I can do about it, then forget about it. I'm not going to put any more energy into it. And sometimes that's just not a popular opinion in many cases, but that's just the way I am.
Yeah. I like it. I feel like that's somewhat of a Midwestern value. Maybe you see that less on the coast. I've never actually been to California.
California is beautiful, except the trash. I step out on my balcony and I see supercars and I see homeless people.
Wow. The dichotomy.
Probably more homeless people, but they're supercars. I walked campus and I walked through sorority row and everything else there. And you look in the parking lot of these mansions and it's Mercedes-Benz, Porsche, all these super nice cars.
Yeah.
And then Lamborghinis picking up people and everything else. You see all this nice stuff. And I'm just so lucky to live right next to USC and be on such a manicured campus. I don't know how much they spend on landscaping there, but it's beautiful. I could count on one hand the days I've walked and stepped on like a leaf. They're
Really?
out there trimming bushes, leaf blowing every morning on my way to work, or not work, but campus. And it's incredible how clean they keep the place at USC. You get outside of USC, which I try to do at least once a week, where I'll get in my pickup and try to explore a different part. Takes about an hour usually. It's a round trip, but it's a lot of fun. There's so much to do there. You can go to the beach, you can go hiking, you can go just about do anything.
That's sweet.
It just costs a few extra bucks in gas and time for sure.
So you are a very Midwest small town guy. from Kansas. How has LA and California received Brady?
So far, they've welcomed me. Everybody in the athletic department and just around campus has been super nice to me, and they'll always greet you. I don't know if that's their job or what, but so far I've met really nice people. But with that, there's some culture things, like you're competing against athletes on the team and you're working with them, and these people are super focused on becoming professional and self-developing, to where it seems like there's a lot of individuals there. And that's one thing I've identified and I'm not used to, and I think I can help push towards more of a collaborative group of people, and I think I can positively affect the individuals that we have there.
How do you get that group buy-in? Like, what's your plan?
Just creating connections with people, being more friendly. You meet one person, they've got a similar interest as another person, connecting them, just starting conversation. You see people, they walk around with earbuds all the time. I want to stick to myself. It's talking to those people, getting them out of their comfort zone, because it's not comfortable for me to talk to these people that have a background in California where they've always lived in Los Angeles. It's a completely different experience they had growing up, and they have faced so much more adversity than what I've faced, likely. And just communicating with those people, it makes people feel more comfortable.
Yeah, I liked your point of finding those commonalities and identifying them with people, because when you meet someone, you need something to hold on to. Like, everyone forgets each other's names. You kind of remember how they look, their face, whatever. But what you really want, ideally, is like a handhold, like something you can grab onto of, we have this in common, and I'm going to remember that every time I see you, and then we can talk about that, and that's our first conversation, and then it builds, and then a friendship develops from there.
Absolutely. You don't know who you're talking to. I came out there and knew nobody. But do you think anybody knew that about me unless I spoke with other people? No. So you have to dig deep and find people's background.
Yeah. How was it, like, developing those relationships in Wichita? You've got great friends here. You've got a girlfriend. Like, how was leaving that? And then your family in Beloit too. How was packing up and heading west?
Well, it was exciting, but it was also difficult, where you see these people and you're like, man, I might not see these people again. And a lot of my friends are here getting married and everything, and I'm out there and I'm trying to make plans with what I want to do with my life.
Yeah.
And it's difficult, and there's sacrifices I've had to make, for sure, absolutely, going out there. And more phone calls and everything like that certainly helps, but there's just some struggles that you experience out there, especially when you don't know anybody and don't have any connections, where you just feel a little bit alone. And I've certainly felt that at times. It's difficult, but I mean, you get through it. You see people, and I always had athletics to lean on. So practice is my favorite time of the day, because you get to go talk to people, and you see these people for 3 or 4 hours a day. So you really get to know them. And when you go out there at the beginning and you've talked to these people maybe once in a meeting or whatever, it's a little bit lonely. But when you get to see people at practice, it just makes it way more fun, and being social has been great.
Yeah, that is the nice part about athletics, is it forces that interaction. Otherwise, like, when I came to Wichita State, we were talking about this before the podcast started, no one from my high school that I know of has ever gone to Wichita State. I didn't know a single person in town. It was a very isolated period, because I wasn't in athletics. I didn't have a group I belonged to. My scholarship, only one guy and one girl receive it every year. So it's not like I even had a community from that of other scholars that we were going to events to and whatever else. And it was COVID year. And so everything on top of that was like, I knew no one until literally you and I showed up in whatever that dorm room number was, and met, and then the other group of folks from there too. You were one of my first friends at Wichita State. How crazy is that?
It is crazy. I think we both developed a lot since then, which is just crazy to look back on.
Yeah.
Even that we had our gaps and stuff, but we definitely keep in better touch than what we did after the meeting.
But anyways, my point was that isolation period is very hard. It's nice that you're starting to build those relationships. Has this process, like not knowing anyone and having to go through that again, do you think you become a better communicator, both with the relationships that you're maintaining in Kansas, but also the new ones you have to build in California?
Yes, here it was very easy to go back to Beloit and communicate with people that have similar interests to me and the same background.
Mm-hmm.
When I moved out to California, you just don't find people like that, and you don't find commonalities, and that it's just a struggle. So it forces you to become a communicator and rely on the friends you've made along the way and the family you have. And I've been very fortunate to have a great family that supported me in athletics and what I've wanted to do. Never once did they say, don't go out there. I don't want you to do that.
Yeah.
And stay here. Why would you ever want to leave? They've always been, if you want to do that, go out there and try it. And I think that leads to another great quote that I love is, the man who says he can and the man who says he can't are both correct. So
yeah, it starts with that belief. That I love that. And I'm glad that you kind of shouted out the support that you've received too, because I mean, you could have had your family and friends and everyone say, don't leave. Like, what are you doing? This is a terrible decision, and not support you. And it would have been that much harder. Like, to have that group of people around you in the first place, it helps a lot.
Right. And you mentioned that people all sometimes pull back and they don't want you to leave and stuff. And I've definitely experienced that a little bit with transferring. That's a very tough decision where you've built pretty much your family in Wichita together in this athletic department. And it's difficult leaving and seeing people when things were good here, but it's just phenomenal to go out and have all these other opportunities and experiences that I wouldn't have had here.
Yeah. Growth requires you to get outside your comfort zone, and you made a massive leap, but it sounds like you're seeing the upside of that growth.
Absolutely. And I've really drawn on the growth I had here at Wichita to help me in Los Angeles.
Dude, I love it. As we start to wrap up, Brady, is there anything else that you want to mention?
You might have to cut something out here.
That's fine. I'll cut this part.
What would I like to mention?
Degenerate gambler.
We could talk about like the program there, the school program.
Yeah, go for it.
Okay. So when I first came out to USC, I was enrolled in gerontology certificate, and when I was being recruited,
what is gerontology?
Here, that's exactly what I said. I said, what in the world is gerontology? And it's basically the study of aging and how to deal with like the aging population, where more people are living longer and having a healthier life expectancy. So that's really what that school is all about and tackling. And I couldn't get into the business school, which is pretty unfortunate, but I got into the gerontology school. And I took 2 classes out there. I took the physiology course and the sociology course. And I also did 2 Wichita State courses, which are not really relevant to this. But the sociology course was very interesting to me because there are a lot of things taught that are obviously not taught here and that I don't agree with. Yet I had to talk about them in an environment where everybody else there, I'm kind of assuming, but had a little bit better of a background than what I had, because I had never heard of gerontology.
Yeah.
And I'd been thrown in this program because it's the only one I could get into.
Yeah.
And that really helped me develop as a speaker, because we were reading these articles and we'd have to present them at class. And it's about feminism, wave 3 feminism, and difficult topics like that I have no background in, and quite frankly, just don't know anything about. Yeah. And I've got to present to the class on this subject. So that's definitely developed me as a person. And the second class, the physiology of aging, was really interesting, but it was so far over my head that I couldn't comprehend any of it pretty much. But I got a few things out of it. But the course just went into such a cellular level of things that I'm trying to pick out words that I remember from biology as a junior in high school. And it was difficult to even understand a whole lot going in that class. But it was a lot of fun and it was interesting. but the curriculum I'm taking there is definitely brand new to me, and it's been a challenge.
Yeah, it's shifting your perspective. What I like about that Wave 3 feminism speech that you had to give is whether or not you believe it, that you still had to present it confidently. And one of my favorite things that I didn't enjoy in the moment, but I took an AP literature class in high school, and our teacher used to have us write these argumentative essays that were graded like just ruthlessly, like very, very high level course. And she used to have us pick which side of the fence we were on a topic, and then force us to write the argumentative essay in the opposite side of the fence than what we believed in. And it was like, why would you have me go against what I believe in? But it teaches you to look at the other side. And then even if you still don't agree, you have to present on it in a confident manner. And it really like forces this perspective shift while also building confidence. And I feel like that's what you got out of that speech class too.
It was great. And part of going out to Los Angeles is meeting people you don't exactly agree with.
Yeah.
And it helps you understand other people's perspective, where when you grow up in a small town, you often see things the same as everybody else, and people have very similar ideologies and ways of doing stuff. So when you get out there and you see all these crazy people doing these things that you would hear of, and you're like, okay, maybe I can understand where they're coming from. And then you pick out a few things that you might not like, but it's been good to learn from the other side and see different perspectives, and it helps me develop my critical thinking and decide, is this really right and what's really wrong?
Yeah. I'm a firm believer that we are just a culmination of the experiences that we have. And so you having those experiences just widens your perception on things. You may still end up believing what you originally believed, but now you have an experience to tie back to it with an actual data point and something you actually experienced and went through. So I'm sure that's tough, but that's good.
Right. So I'm working towards a grad certificate in gerontology, which I'll have at the top of my resume.
There you go. Proudly displayed.
And then I'll finish my MBA from Wichita State this spring semester, and then I'll probably be done with formal schooling at least.
Nice. You said you're taking a physiology class. Is that the second one you said?
Yeah.
So you said it was a very intense course, but you're able to pick out just a couple things. What were the couple things you were able to pick up on?
Well, in aging, isolation at the end of life is one of the worst things you can do. And we read articles in there about how surveys and studies have shown that that isolation is equivalent to smoking 15 cigarettes a day.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Which is, absolutely nuts. And then obviously I picked up a lot on sleep apnea and how it can lead to cardiovascular aging, because I had to write a 10-page term paper on it.
Oh my gosh.
But yeah, I mean,
why does sleep apnea lead to that?
Just because you're putting me on the spot.
Well, you wrote 10 pages. I figured you'd have a couple talking points.
I wrote it down and forgot about it and turned it in.
But
right. By the way, it was so good that she said I should submit it to the campus libraries for review.
Seriously?
Put it on the real stuff like Google Scholar and crap.
Wow.
And I just dove in, broke down sleep apnea, and the apnea part, which is the stopping of breathing for 10 seconds or more, triggers different parasympathetic, sympathetic system responses that increase blood pressure and like stiffen your heart over time. So over your life's development, it accelerates aging, and that's how I tied that into gerontology.
Yeah. I could also imagine that it disrupts your REM cycle, which is crucial for your health recovery, all that type of stuff.
But that's like more endocrine system, so I didn't really even dig into that. Because this is also my first paper I've ever written for science. I've written business papers before, but science, like nonfiction paper, is a lot more difficult because you've got to reference anything.
I was going to say those references are probably crazy.
I've only had to reference 3 or 4 things or something, throw the links up at the end of the slideshow. And this one I had 25 references, all APA format. So that took me a while.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's brutal. But I do love like scientific papers, especially that topic is a super interesting one. I'm a big sleep guy. I love reading about sleep, learning about what it does for you, how to increase it. Did you see anything about mouth taping in your research for sleep?
No.
Really?
Not at all. I obviously focused a little bit on CPAP and the treatment for sleep apnea, but I didn't go into anything about mouth tape.
Yeah. So my undereducated takeaway and understanding is that whenever you're snoring, like that's not good because it's disrupting your REM cycle and the other things that happen while you sleep. But by mouth sleeping or by mouth taping, you force yourself to breathe nasally, which is better for air intake, and it helps you to remain in REM, which everything apparently goes back to REM.
Yeah. So, I didn't even try to dig into REM sleep in that part of the research because it would just lead me down a rabbit hole I don't want to get into.
With your research into people living longer, did you see anything about birth rates decreasing, what that means for us in the long term?
We dug into that in the sociology course, and we looked at different societies like China where they had the one-child policy and how that's impacted aging because unpaid child givers are often your children. And when the children grow up and move away and you've only got one to rely on, that makes not child. Did I say child care?
No, you may have. I don't know.
Adult care, primary caregiving. It makes it more difficult because you don't have that one single resource that moved away. Whereas when everybody lived together and your family is all there and everybody lives within the same, 5 square miles, it makes it more easier when you have those resources. When you don't, that's when government and all that comes into place. But the thing about social policy is the effects of it are later, and you're born into previous social policy and social structures. So we definitely dug into it in the sociology class, and that was a big part of it.
Yeah, you're paying for the consequences of those that came before you, which is a very interesting concept.
Yeah, you're born into a framework that you can't control.
Yeah, like just you wouldn't correlate decreasing birth rates with a negative economic impact, but there's definitely a line that's drawn between that and what that means for future generations. It's really interesting to see how those dots connect.
Yeah, and that's one of the things they say on week 1 of your class is how this is going to be an increasingly greater problem in the future.
Yeah.
With greater life expectancy and decreasing birth rates.
You got to do your part, Brady. It's time for you to hunker down and start having kids.
Not yet. I'm still in my 20s. I want to travel the world and see things and
bring the kids with you. They'll love it.
Yeah.
Let's game plan here a little bit. It's 2024 right now, about to be 2025 tomorrow. This is New Year's Eve. Man, what a way to spend New Year's Eve.
Absolutely.
This is New Year's Eve.
Happy New Year's, everybody.
Yeah, Happy New Year's when you're listening to this. It's New Year's Eve. You got 3 years before the Olympics. Let's say you can make it to the Olympics because I believe you can. If you got down to work, you could bring your 3-year-old son with you to the Olympics. Tell me how cool of an experience that would be.
That would be quite crazy, but I think I would be just as happy, giving my wife a kiss in the stands or something.
Yeah. Just as happy? I don't know, man.
We live in 2024, the late 20s, where there's going to be a camera so they can play it on TV and watch it on YouTube highlights or whatever. So
I don't know. I don't think it's the same. I'll work on this one offline.
It's not the same, but that part of my life is on pause, and I guess I haven't even started it. So
it's on pause. He hasn't even started. He's just getting warmed up. Okay. Well, Brady, I'm just giving you a hard time. I appreciate you coming on. Where can people find you online if they want to connect, reach out, learn more?
I usually use my Instagram the most, ballin.pollen.
There it is. You spell it out for him?
Ballin. Pollen, Palen.
Yeah.
For my last name.
Because everyone thinks it's Palen, or at least I did.
Yes. It's not Balin Palen, even though it would work from the farm community I'm at, but I chose Ballin Pollen.
I thought it was Ballin Palen, and I was always like, what even is this?
It came from my love for basketball. Yeah. And short-lived.
Basketball player at heart, man. Okay. You can find me at Jacob O'Connor. The podcast is at Real Period Conversations. If you enjoyed it, please share it with a friend. Brady, my final question. Looking back at this really exciting journey you've been on, what advice would you give to your freshman self that was in that dorm room the first time we met?
I would say focus on something that can lead to more opportunities. I wandered around aimlessly, and luckily I found a talent I had and paired it with working hard. So Pick something that you think has growth and work towards it.
Thanks for coming on, man.
Thank you.
Happy New Year's, everyone.
Happy New Year's.